So, if you're looking for a motorcycle audio solution that is easy to get into and has all been well thought out, and from a brand that you already trust, then look no further than Kenwood Solution to Motorcycle Audio. Today, we've got their product expert, Marcus Vasconcellos, joining us to break it all down to see just how simple this system really is. This is CMA Connected, brought to you by Sirius XM, all about Kenwood Motorcycle Audio. And it starts now. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another CMA Connected here on CMA Networks, presented by Sirius XM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. We're talking motorcycle audio, and in that point, with a brand that we already recognize. One of the interesting things about motorcycle audio is there is an amazing selection of product that is available today. However, for many of you out there who are just starting to get into it, many of these brands you may not be familiar with. Well, today's brand you certainly are, because we're talking Kenwood. Everybody knows Kenwood. We know the great products and history that they have. And here they are in motorcycle audio with a very interesting offering that's easy for anybody to get into. I want to welcome my guest, Marcus, to the show. Marcus, what are we going to be talking about on today's Connected?
Hey, Ben. Thanks for having me on. Well, again, today we're going to be talking about motorcycle audio and kind of the impact that Kenwood has had on the segment itself. Going to these events and supporting the cultures, being a part of where they really live, going to the rallies in particular. We've had great success showing our products there. And we kind of want to discuss how that works today.
All right, Marcus, excited to get into it with you. But first, a quick break and a reminder from our partner, Sirius XM, why it's always an amazing add-on sale. When we come back, let's get into the culture of motorcycle audio and Kenwood. Don't you dare go away.
Hey, Paul here with Sirius XM, and I'd like to talk to you about attachment selling and why the Sirius XM product is one of the best things to add, especially since we don't trade dollars with any other category. I could go through all of this, but let's hear what some of our dealers have to say.
It's an easy add-on that takes, 10, 15 minutes if we're running an antenna, 1 minute if we've got an adapter to plug it into the factory Sirius XM antenna, and it's extra money, so no brainer.
I present it to every customer because a lot of customers don't know what all they can do with Sirius. They don't know what all content they could have. It just makes too much sense not to sell it.
It creates a different customer loyalty and customer security when you explain to them why it's a better experience. Just gets them back in the door. And then the next car, they're already asking for it again. So it just keeps selling itself. It makes more sense.
Well, there you have it. You heard from our dealers. Just remember some of the best practices. Make sure you have one on display so you can demo it. Make sure you're taking advantage of our rewards program, because if you're not taking advantage of that, you're leaving even more money on the table. Make sure you got our POP up on display. And other than that, just make sure you're recommending it.
And welcome back to the show. Like I said, we have our good friend Marcus here from Kenwood. Marcus, welcome. So you mentioned something before the break, and that is, when Kenwood was going to get into motorcycle audio, this is obviously was a new category for you guys.
Yeah.
You had already have marine, power sports stuff, obviously car audio. But I think what was interesting was that Kenwood recognized that in order to play in this game, you really had to invest in the lifestyle and the culture of it all, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think motorcycles in general there's like an unspoken bond with bike riders that really you have to build trust with them. You can't just show up and say, "Hey, I've got this product and it's great for you." You have to basically prove it. You have to be there where they are at the rallies and show them the product, show them that it fits their bike, show them how good it sounds, and that's where they take that information and they share it with everybody in their groups. It's a really social type event, and the social type culture is basically a bond with other riders, and the trust is a big element of that.
You know what? I remember when you guys first announced that you're going to be in motorcycle audio.
Yeah.
And I just want to bring back this story so that our listeners understand. When Kenwood first showed up at a bike show, it wasn't even to offer audio. If I remember correctly, you guys were there to offer a motorsports camera package at the time.
Correct. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that
so
translated, right?
Yeah. So we actually, before we got into motorcycle audio, we had the STZ RF200 WD, and we went to rallies for like a year straight. Anything from the MotoGP in Austin, Texas at COTA to Sturgis in South Dakota. And, again, I think it was building trust with the customers, because we got a lot of feedback, and they said, "Hey, they love what we offer in a camera. why don't you have motorcycle audio? You guys would be great at it. So, we knew right then and there that we needed to build a new category for Kenwood.
All right. Well, let's fast forward into today. We want to cover some of that. For those that are tuning in, Kenwood is a brand that means reliability, right?
Yeah.
Performance, value, and I think that's what your offering is really all about. Is ease of installation. It's
Yep.
addressing that customer that wants to upgrade their sound, but maybe not have to pay too much. It's a very
Sure.
value pack kind of offering. So let's start with the lid kits, because I think that's where most people really appreciate the upgrade. Let's get into the lid kit and what are the little details that people need to know.
So the cool thing about doing a lid kit, and I've kind of mentioned this before, it's like adding a woofer in a car. It does the same thing in a motorcycle. It brings in that bottom end that you're missing from that audio system. You can't get that from a set of 6.5s like you can from a 6x9 in a really large enclosure like the saddlebag itself. It also, we have the latitude to basically design our systems. We don't make you buy a 4-channel amplifier and essentially not use half of it, right? So the way our systems are set up is each set of speakers has its own separate amplifier with a maximum of up to 3 amplifiers available in the fairing. So again, you can kind of dip a toe in the water and set up the rear system and get that performance gain that you really need without spending more money than you have to. And that's kind of Kenwood's thing, is we always want to build great sounding audio systems that anybody can afford.
So let's get into the details, the design elements, as well as what's included in this kit, so that people understand when they're investing into something like this, it really is all in and simple to put in.
So some of the unique features of the rear bag kit, they're actually designed to wick away and drain water out of them. It doesn't seem like a big deal until you wake up one morning and your saddlebag lids leak inside your bags and get all your contents wet. So just this little simple thing makes a big difference for the comfort of motorcycle rider. And in also doing that, we angled the speakers towards the rider, and we feel like that's a feature because we're not basically projecting the sound outward to everybody else. We're projecting the sound to the best seat in the house, and that's on the middle of the bike. And another feature is just the quality of the connectors that are included with this kit. So they are waterproof connectors, Deutsch style connectors that fit neat and clean under the bag. Everything is basically designed and built as if it was a factory OEM installed system.
Now, as I hear Marcus talking about the great features of the lid kits, I do encourage you to check out on our website, cmanetworks.com, the workshop that Marcus does on a step-by-step installation of said lid kits. All right. So we're talking about upgrading sound. We're talking about the offering that Kenwood has for motorcycle audio. Of course, we're talking about lid kits, but let's talk about the front stage, because there's a lot of options here for riders to really upgrade that as well, isn't there, Marcus?
Yeah, Ben, you're exactly right. So not only do we have the lid kits to add that rear fill, but in cases where you want more volume coming from the front of the bike, you can always upgrade the front speakers and add an amplifier, but it doesn't stop at just doing the original mounted speakers in the fairing. With many of our kits, we can actually add lower speakers in, and that adds a third speaker position on a bike, which can take it over the top for some riders. And again, we can fit up to 3 amplifiers. So we can have 3 160-watt amplifiers inside that fairing without any modifications. And again, still work well with the factory electrical system and not overload that system.
Marcus, one of the comments that we get often on our YouTube channel is, when it comes to the tour pack, this seems to be not all bikes. I'm not an expert, but maybe you can tell me. There are certain applications whereby it comes with a tour pack option. And is that another available option to upgrade sound when you have a tour pack?
Yeah, one of the things that's kind of hard to understand about motorcycles is they all technically, the Harley Davidsons, especially the Street Glide and Road Glides, all look the same. One of the few nuances about those bikes is that some of the limited bikes actually come factory equipped with a tour pack, and it's relatively easy to add a tour pack for its function and use aftermarket wise as well. So it is nice that our system allows us that ability to attach the rear speakers on a tour pack of a limited, but also use the factory head unit's power to run those. So let's say in the scenario we just spoke about a few segments ago was, hey, we're going to have rear lid speakers, we're going to have lower speakers, and we're going to have fairing speakers all running off those 3 mentioned amplifiers in the fairing. What if I have that tour pack and I have a set of 6.5 inch there? I want the best performance to be there all the time. And a tour pack is something that you often will take off the bike because, you may be in a situation where you don't need all that extra space and you want the maneuverability of your bike, and it's easier to get it on and off in some cases, just to take that tour pack off. And the nice thing is that all it requires is just unplugging, and you don't have to rewire or reroute amplifiers to connect to the other speakers. It just simply is detached, right? It's easy to remove, but it's easy to also put back on and get that extra performance of those extra set of 6.5s. And you could total up to 4 different positions of sound on a motorcycle, which is pretty unique.
So, like I said at the top of the show, Kenwood is offering some very, very simple to do upgrade options, regardless of which scenario. We talked about the rear lids, we talked about the upper fairing, the lower fairing, and even in a situation where you may or may not have tour packs. At the end of the day, I think Marcus has done a great job also explaining the versatility of the system, that you don't have to do everything at once. And I think that's really nice that you could kind of upgrade as you go if that's something that you're looking to do. We talked about the culture, and I think Kenwood has got a great grasp on that. The last thing I want to mention here, Marcus, is the warranty. And this is something that's a little bit unique in this category. And I want to talk about that because warranty is an important point, especially when it comes to what Kenwood offers.
Yeah, you're right, Ben. Warranty is important. It's a confidence booster for both installers and the customer themselves. When you have a 2-year warranty like the Exelon product does, it really helps drive home the fact that you're buying a quality product. And the point really is that if you build it right and you have a good warranty, chances are you probably won't need to use the warranty. One of the little unknown facts about Kenwood is we have a very, very low return rate. So our warranty is definitely backing up a strong product at 2 years because we very seldom see those returns.
Well, Marcus, thanks again for coming in today to talk to us about the offering currently from Kenwood in the motorcycle audio category. What last message or final message do you have for dealers tuning in or consumers tuning in that want to think about upgrading their sound, and maybe Kenwood might be their option?
Well, to answer that question, Ben, I would consider first how you use your motorcycle. There are different riders and different types of, wants out of their system. Some people want to have the loudest, biggest, baddest system on the block. And some people want something that's more reliable and built for their motorcycle that's not going to affect the reliability and the rideability of their bikes. I've actually seen motorcycles that weigh upwards of 1,600 pounds because of the audio system that they installed on this motorcycle, but it basically renders the bike completely useless for what it's designed for. And then on the flip side of that, we have a system that's designed to fit the bike perfectly without modifications, without a flash, without affecting the electrical system. So this is something that you want to really try on and see what the differences with the other options out there are. You might find out that some of them may or may not work well with your bike's electrical system, and that could basically lead to other problems down the road. Whereas something like the Kenwood system is designed completely around being integrated on that bike without affecting it in longevity.
I want to take this opportunity and thank my guest today, Marcus, for joining us on today's show. For more information on any of the products covered on today's session, make sure you check out the website right here on the screen. Now, my takeaway is as such: Kenwood is the brand that you know, is the brand that you rely on. It's the brand that absolutely exudes reliability and a fine balance with value and performance. And I think they've done just this. In the time that Kenwood has introduced motorcycle audio, it's been really met with rave reviews from customers. It's reliable. It doesn't change your lifestyle or change the way your bike performs. It's meant to work with it. It's designed specifically to go with it. And with that warranty in the background and the reliability that Kenwood has always had, it's a pretty solid bet. So I'm happy that they've come up with the solutions they have. And I bet there's probably more solutions on the way. So you just have to tune back to CMA to see when that happens. That's it for this CMA Connected, brought to you by Sirius XM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.